Hello guys and welcome to our Saturday night stream. It is the international tier and we are heading to Australia then. So we'll just go through at the moment. We've got 15 drivers as some are starting to ready up. Main ones to wait on for that would be the likes of Mr. P and Red Bull. But it looks like a decent field for tonight. We've seen JT Galato dominate. I think he won the earlier race as well. But he will not be here tonight. Nor will Thick Daddy. So there will be some other contenders. The key ones, I'm going to presume, Mr. P, Red Bull, Usain Bolt, I think has plenty of pace. Hazer, been impressed as well. I saw in Tier 2, Kaganis has some decent pace in the Aston Martin. Bucky also in the McLaren. And then we've got some interesting other drivers because some of them I haven't seen. So Prezi in the Red Bull. I will call him Daimar in the Ferrari. Iron Bro in the AlphaTauri. I think he raced earlier, I believe. I'm not 100% certain. And we'll see what Dumbest Basket could do as well. But it'll be interesting in tonight's race who will deliver. Short qualifying followed by the 29 laps. An equal performance. Kelvin King just entering as well. Are we missing other drivers? Nick, I think. I believe Nick is meant to be racing tonight, but he's not in the lobby. So, at the moment, that is what we have in terms of 16 drivers. Wait to see if anybody else is able to join in the lobby. But I wouldn't say there's a particularly strong sort of standout like we would normally in Tier 1 see the likes of JT Galato and Thick Daddy right up there. Maybe you can still continue with those in Tier 1, but there's a few drivers who are either international tier specific or just hover around in different events. Maybe they are just for Saturday nights with the sprint and the international tier. And then there's a couple who I haven't seen too much of, Betman being one of those. Even though I know he's been around quite a bit recently, but BRL Shadow, it would be interesting to see him again. And also my Ferrari teammate Pro Beast, as well as Usain Bolt, of course, who I've mentioned. But yeah, very keen to see how the drivers can compete tonight. So ready up, it's 10:03. So we can prepare to start qualifying then. And of course, there is a mixture of tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 drivers. There you go. Get my words out. As well as a few who are specific for the international tier. Oh, Kagana says he hates his track. Bad luck all the time. Oh, okay. Well, let's see how you can do in qualifying. But I will say, yeah, you did have some good pace on our Tuesday night, so be very keen to see how you can do. As we've got the 30-second countdown now. And we are about to start qualifying then. Since F1 2019 I finished only once in league here 2 weeks ago. Well, at least it was a recent event 2 weeks ago. So does that mean you're getting better, right? Yeah, I only started playing, well, F1 2021 earlier this year. Um, I guess I'm sort of tried getting better at it, but then over time I've sort of stagnated a little bit. But yeah, so it's just Hazer and Dumbest Basket. I think we're going through the tyre allocation screens at the moment. Right, so the 18 minutes has begun, and we will just. So I'm actually. I want to play around a little bit this week, see what we can do. I might try a bit more off the broadcast view, just to try it out. I will turn the track. I don't know why I always felt skipping to the full track map was best, but then you've got the mini map on, which sort of shows how close together cars are, I guess. Bit easier to see who's coming out first as well. That'll be Usain Bolt. Let's see. Do I want the lap data on? I want the lap data on for qualifying. Probably not really necessary for the race. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the telemetry off. Some detail I will still stick with the best. Just gonna try all this out a little bit. Do I need the tyres actually on? Not really. Why do you need the tyres on? They're probably all going to be on the soft tyres. Maybe one or two decide on mediums, but softs will be the most frequently used. Maybe for qualifying I will just have the full track map on, and then for the race I can close it in onto the mini map, or just have it completely off. Just want to have a bit of a clearer sort of screen so you guys get to see more of the action. Right, so Usain Bolt about to start his flying lap in the Alfa Romeo. Just anyone in the chat at the moment, just let me know how the sound is. Just want to know if you can hear me comfortably over the car sounds, but also if you can hear the engine enough. Oh, you've got a lot of experience in the F1 games, eh? 97, 2000, 02, 05, 09, 12, 14, 17. Oh wow, okay. Yeah, plenty of experience there. What? I mean, are you on a track at the moment? Yeah, you are. Okay. Probably not best to ask you the question I do want to ask you. When you get in the pits, I'll ask you the question. So, Usain Bolt coming round at the final corner here of Australia, Melbourne, and taking a time of a 1:18.354 is the opener. What about Di Ma in the Ferrari? First time I am seeing him in UFRL, and he comes through with a 1:18.941. Davy Boy goes P3. Shadow has invalidated. Cagness coming round the final corner, also invalidated. A lot of drivers are invalidating actually. That Sergeant Coffee coming round and delivering with a 121.3. And it would be Iron Bro as well, a driver who I haven't seen. So the AlphaTauri coming in now. I think it might be his first day in UFRL. I'm not sure on that either. But 119.785 goes into the top 3 provisionally. Mr. P just starting his flying lap. Bucky coming into sector 2. And now into sector 3. BRL Shadow potentially on a flying lap. Pro Beast has invalidated. Cagness just exiting the chicane. Red Bull close behind him as well. So we'll just see then. Oh, Mr. P dropping off then. Bucky is coming round then. Well, 118.921, slightly ahead of Daimar. And Cagness with a 119.624, only P5. Davy Boy up there with a 119.391 for the Tier 3 driver. Sergeant Coffee also Tier 3 with a 119.713. Quite a close field at the moment, especially given that you've got all different tiers representing tonight, all 4 on show plus those from the sprint and international tiers respectively, as BRL Shadow goes P6 at 119.665. Mr. P not with a representative lap of course. What about Pro Beast? There's a bit of traffic ahead. And Hazer again struggling with it. So Pro Beast then in the Alfa Romeo. His teammate is provisionally on pole position. And Pro Beast heading into the pits. Dumbest Basket starting a flying lap plan in the Haas. Oh, and he runs wide. But avoids any real impact, so he doesn't invalidate and continue with his flying lap. This looks like, was it? Yeah, Ferrari potentially of BRL Shadow gets out of the way. And Dumbest Basket runs wide again, but was on the curb for long enough. Okay, my question was just to ask, which of the games that you have played did you felt like most confident on? Not necessarily which was the best, but what was the best for you? Where did you feel you were quickest? '97 on PS1, wow. Shame they couldn't do like online back then, right? That would be interesting. So, with that in mind, what would be your worst track? Oh, well, not track, but your worst year. Wow, Hazer is still continuing to struggle with another invalidation. And the Alpine is going again. I can just see on the screen he has about 2 laps of fuel remaining. So if he's going to do one, this will be his final lap before he is forced to enter the pits. Unless he invalidates here, then he may as well go to the pits. As for Red Bull, I mean, the Williams always has a tiny screen, which is quite funny compared to all the others. Like, you look at the size of Hazer's, because it's actually on the steering wheel, whereas Red Bull's in the Williams is not on the steering wheel, sadly. It would just be a lot easier, but yeah. 2018. Alright, fair enough. Well, at least you feel like you're getting better since 2018 then, if that's the case. So Red Bull also with an invalidation. What about Bucky? Is he going to improve at all? Not quite. What about Domar in the Ferrari? He's P4, his teammate in P8. Oh, Mr. P has gone into the top 2 meanwhile, 118.473. I swear he was 4 seconds down, so he must have done that 1 or 2 laps back. Unless the delta was wrong and he wasn't actually 4 seconds down, as Domar now goes into P2. Said I was going to call him Dimer, I'm going to call him Domar. But very close now between the top 3, just over a tenth separating Usain Bolt, Domar and Mr. Poem. Kaganis has started his flying lap. Yeah, our Shadow coming through. Does he improve? Nope. So this will be his flying lap. Sergeant Coffee just behind as well, and then Ironbro coming round at the final corner, but not improving his lap also. So, are any of these guys? Pro Beast invalidating. Dumbest Basket is on a flying lap in Sector 1. Kelvin King has come around at the final corner, struggling with a bit of desync for the Mercedes, however. It comes in with a 122.2. I think everybody else seems okay from what I've seen, so a bit worried on Kelvin King's car at the moment. As Thomas Bartlett just the Aston Martin of must have been Kaganis running it very close, but Dumbest Basket is on a flying lap and the Haas is going to around the final couple of corners as Usain Bolt goes quicker, a 17.7, a 7 tenths faster than Daimar. Stays P1. Dumbest Basket now comes through in the Haas and sets a 189, goes into P4, 5 thousandths ahead of Bucky. Pro Beast is on another flying lap. Kelvin King gaining 4.5 tenths. But again, it looks like he is struggling with some form of connection issues, I believe. Anybody else on a flying lap right now? Possibly Sergeant Coffee, up in his top 7 at the moment. His teammate FTR Prezi in a Red Bull, both drivers together on track and also on the grid. So Dumbest Basket moving up to P4, I'm presuming not on a flying lap. Another car, the Alpine, at this time out of the way. Be either Davy Boy or Hazer. I think it would be Hazer actually, being the only Alpine on the field, and I think he's run out of fuel. He has. So he's got the 2 Red Bulls coming up. Beyond that, he should be okay to get into the pits. He'll be fine, I think. Hopefully this will be a flying lap for Red Bull. Ooh, very close. Right on the curb, but does not invalidate. He's down in 15th because he's not set a time yet, but we know he does have pace. Can he run himself close to Usain Bolt in the Alfa Romeo? Mr. Williams now into Sector 3. I do believe he has Kelvin King ahead of him, but Kelvin King will get across the line before Red Bull, so more yellow flags in Sector 1. I'm waiting for that to go away so I could see how much time we have remaining, as Red Bull now does not invalidate his lap. So a flying lap, a first for Red Bull in the Williams, and it comes in with a 118.3, goes P2. Still not as close to Usain Bolt as he would have liked, about 6 tenths adrift. That's weird. It's not letting me move up from Betman. Maybe is it because he's in the pits? That's strange. Okay, well, we'll scroll down then. It's not actually letting me do it at all. Oh, there you go. Now it's letting me do it. That was a bit weird. Right. So Davy Boy not improving. What about Caganis again not improving? And BRL Shadow definitely not improving. In the Ferrari spinning around. Iron Bro invalidated and losing 6 seconds. Mr. Poem in the final couple of sectors. We've got less than 4 minutes remaining. It doesn't look like anybody is on a flying lap right now. Oh, and Mr. Poem has spun. I do wonder, was he trying to go for another flying lap? That could be his qualifying session over. With just over 3 minutes remaining, and he does look like he's got damage as well. I do wonder if he was trying to go into the pits potentially. Very interesting with Mr. Poem there, but he is still in the top 4. And from behind, it doesn't look like too many are threatening for the top 4 right now. Bucky is starting his flying lap then. And he has his McLaren teammate Betman just ahead on track, both on a flying lap. So yellow flags into sector 2, coming into sector 3. Actually go on board with, no, we won't go on board with Hazer. I want to go on board with Sergeant Coffee. In the Red Bull, is he on a flying lap? It doesn't look like it. With that in mind, I am going to go with Betman then. He is going to set his first time with 2 minutes off the session to go. The first of the 2 McLarens to come across the line. For the what I believe will be the final time for the 2 McLarens. So let's see, Betman followed by Bucky. Currently P16 and P6. Betman will set his first flying lap then in the McLaren. And he comes in with a 1:19.616, goes into P11, just on the cusp of the top 10. And around 2 tenths behind Davy Boy, who is in tier 3, as is Sergeant Coffee. Bucky is not on a quick lap, so this will be Bucky's flying lap then. Currently in P7. And also you got Prezi, did gain by 6 tenths, so is now into the top 5. And most drivers now are on flying laps, so Hazer apparently reportedly is improving. Only P14 however. So is this his flying lap, or will he be starting down in P14? He hasn't validated, so that will be it for Hazer. P14, although the tyres on the track. Iron Bro is preparing, I believe, for a flying lap then. He's got enough time to do it. Whereas Red Bull has just started his lap. Prezi struggling through as well, so it will be... Oh, Pro Beast cutting corners quite literally in an attempt to get around, but I'm not sure he'll be able to do it. BRL Shadow, and Pro Beast has retired from the session. And there you go, so checkered flag is out, and we will see now where will, I think Caganis will be the first. So Caganis currently in 8th position, and he comes in. Will he improve? He does, but ever so slightly. Remains P8. What about BRL Shadow? Goes into P9, and very close between the pairing. Looks like next up will be, I'm trying through, where is Red Bull at the moment? He is on a lap. Is he going to potentially take P1 away from Usain Bolt? Here is the Williams, here is Red Bull, and he just misses out. He does gain by about 4 tenths, but it's still 2 tenths behind Usain Bolt. What about Sergeant Coffee? Any improvement for the Red Bull? He's in the top 10. Congratulations to him on that. And he moves into 8th position. Out-qualifies Kaganis and Shadow. What about Iron Bro as the final driver along? Where does Iron Bro get into it? I think he is in P7. And that it will be your grid, and it will be Usain Bolt from Red Bull. And Daimar takes P3 ahead of Mr. Poeman Prezi. Very close between the trio. Dumbest Basket, Iron Bro, Bucky, Sargent and Kaganis in the top 10. BRL, Shadow and Davy Boy just missing out within a couple of tenths. Betman ahead of Pro Beast. Then you've got Hazer, 2 seconds adrift in the Alpine, struggling. The Tier 1 driver. I think he was the Tier 1 runner-up of last season behind Fix Addy. Then you've got Kelvin King, 3.6 seconds off the pace in the Mercedes. He will start in P16. But it is Usain Bolt who takes P1, and we'll just quickly screenshot both, hopefully. Both screens are screenshotted there. That is qualifying completed for Australia. There will now be a 5-minute break as well. So I will now just... Oh, hello, we got a bit of rain, haven't we? Oh, nice. So, whilst we do have this 5-minute break, I think it would be a good time to just mention about the Patreon tonight. So, I think, if I read it correctly, I believe it started... Did it start today or yesterday? Within the past couple of days, before, for sure. So, I signed up today, and also 2 others. I saw Slater had signed up to it as well, and 1 more who is not confirmed just yet. I will put the link in the chat, but it's to basically support the league, help out with some prizes at the end, and also gives you some additional features, particularly on, I think there's Fridays there'll be stuff going on in regards to a few community events essentially, so you can get involved in all of that, and that will help support the league out. So we'll put that in the chat if you want to have a little look around. Of course you don't have to, but it would be very nice to have a little look and potentially support the league in the short and long term as well. So we'll just post that now. There you go. So, but we have a few more minutes to go. And let's be honest, it's not going to be intermediate conditions, I'm pretty sure of that, so I don't need to worry too much on the tyres. Pretty certain it'll be full wets all round. The only interesting thing is, will we have any dry weather at all? This would be interesting. Because I mean, if it's say a full wet start, but then intermediates come along very quickly, you might just fancy yourself on the inters early on. But I'm not too sure what the weather is going to be. But it'd be nice for the stream to just have a little watch, see what happens. It would be good to have some changeable conditions. To have a dynamic wet race essentially. Full wet, oh, full wet, okay. Good luck then to all the 16 drivers on the show then. Full wet conditions. So you can forget about using DRS for this race. So I'm sure we've got a couple of minutes left. So I'll go through what's going to be going on then for the week ahead. So we'll have our typical tiers 1 through to tier 4, Monday through to Thursday. So, tier 1 on Monday night. I'll just have a little check. Where are we at this week? Is it USA, I believe? So it'll be a circuit off the Americas this week for tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then next Saturday we'll be back with the Sprint and International Series. Just have a little check in the Discord chat how long we've got left. Um, 5-minute break was at 10:25. It is now 10:30, so we could be pretty close to we can go. But for wet conditions, this is going to be intriguing to watch. Just wait on the 30-second countdown to begin then. So 30-second countdown has started now. It looks like it will stay full wets for the full duration of this 50% race. But again, I mean, it could be a possibility that we could go to intermediates at some point. Someone may take a risk, potentially. But anyway, so we're just awaiting the start of the race. Everybody will have their setups completed and the formation app can now get underway. As I said, I just want to sort of go with something a bit different for this race, I think. But then again, the only challenge with it is with the full track map, you can see who may have potentially spun around or something. I don't think you need a telemetry or lap data run, so I'm going to leave that off. Tyres to confirm it is full wets for everyone. David Boy and Betman both disqualified, I presume, making contact. But yeah, full wets all round, so we don't actually need to have that up unless someone goes into the pits potentially. There you go, so you've got Usain Bolt from Red Bull Daimler in the Ferrari. Mr. Poem in the Aston Martin doing very well to get up into the top 4. Prezi P5. Thomas Basket P6. Iron Bro in the AlphaTauri P7. Bucky in the first of the 2 McLarens in the top 8. Sergeant Coffee doing well to get himself into 9th ahead of a couple of tier 2 drivers, which are Kaganis and BRL Shadow. Then you got 3 disqualifications in a row now. You got Davy Boy, Betman. I've got to say, from what I'm seeing, Pro Beast may just be struggling a tad. One driver who has certainly been struggling so far is Hazer, but I do wonder if he has wet weather setup. That may have been why he was struggling during qualifying. But he's into P15, and we can see the Tier 1 runner-up of last season can impress here. And then we've got Kelvin King in the Mercedes at the back. So, Usain Bolt has invalidated early doors. Actually, a few of them have, in fact. Early on, I'm going to have the full track map on, I think. Full wets all round. Do we need anything else on? I don't think so. Maybe just penalties, just in case. Oh, what is that for a view? Right, we'll go on board and with Domar. And then we'll change. Oh, wow, that view is horrible. We'll actually stick now with Domar, as Mr. P has lost many a position. And we'll be at the back. Down in P15. Hazer flying up to P11. No changes at the front. Kaganis has retired from the session. And there is a... I think, is it a virtual safety car? It looks like a virtual. There's no safety car on the track. Bucky running very close to the Ferrari ahead. Just be a bit careful with that. You don't want to get a penalty, which will be unnecessary really, under a virtual safety car. But your order at the moment, and so it's Usain Bolt from Red Bull and Prezi, so the top two as they were. We'll actually go then with the position changes. Prezi gaining the 2 spots, with Mr. P dropping down 10. Bucky up 3, Shadow up 5. 2 tier 2 drivers, very impressive at the start of the race. Iron Bro holding position in P7, and you've got Dumbest Basket dropping 2 spots as we are back underway then. Oh, and back underway with an Usain Bolt spin. And who else was it? Was it somewhere else involved? It may not have been, but Usain Bolt dropping right to the back then as Red Bull leads the race then. So you have your qualifying, your man who was on pole position, Usain Bolt, now down in P15, and a man who qualified P4, Mr. Poem, now making a place ahead of Sergeant Coffee into P11, but dropping 7 places. So as a result, Lendoma hold on to P3, but it's behind both Red Bull and in particular Prezi with a good start, up 3 spots right now. So what about BRL Shadow? As Mr. Poem is in the pits, and BRL Shadow is about half a second behind Iron Bro, who is losing pace a little bit behind Bucky ahead. And Hazer now takes the place of the McLaren of Bettman into the top 7 now. It's the Alpine. And as I did say, he was struggling in qualifying, but it is probably a wet setup for Hazer, as he has made a flying start, up 8 places, gaining the most of any of the 16 drivers on show. Trying to close the gap to BRL Shadow ahead, as another place has been gained by Bucky. He takes the place of the Ferrari of Domar. Domar dropping down to P4. Bucky looks to close the gap on the top 2, who have not escaped away really, although Prezi has dropped off to about a second behind Red Bull now in the lead. Yellow flags at the back, and it looks like it's either Mr. Poem. It is Mr. Poem. I was going to say him or Dumbest Basket. Oh, and is it a virtual safety car again? So it's a second virtual safety car, no full course. Red Bull now leading the way. Oh, a 10-second time penalty for Mr. Poem then. I think I do get the let's see, so it's Red Bull from Prezi, from Bucky, who has also made a great start, up 5 spots. As Mr. Poem, with some hard luck, retiring from the session. I think I do wonder, because am I right in thinking that he may have I don't know, I think I heard something about, I don't know what it was exactly, but I think he is struggling through a pain barrier though, potentially. Which I'm going to presume is why he had to retire. That's why I was thinking hard luck on that one. It's always the way, because you think to yourself, oh, I just want to race, you know. But then when you're in some form of pain or something's happening, it's like you just get more and more frustrated over it. But yeah. He shouldn't have been racing. Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, he's. I think he's one of those who just definitely wants to race no matter what, right? I think a week or 2 ago, was it the Ferrari? Usain Bolt, I think it was, wasn't it? Who was on a similar category. Shouldn't have been racing really, but Obviously, when you've been doing it for a while, you want to keep going. As Kelvin King enters the pits. So everybody just starting to catch up now to the full course safety car. Still no improvement in the weather conditions at the moment either. Just noticed Kelvin King has a penalty. Let's have a little look. Drive-through penalty. Okay, so he will go to the back then. Usain Bolt, you may want to... I say that. He doesn't really need to go a lot quicker because he will get past the safety car and he's not behind Prezi on track, so should be okay. As long as he didn't go into the pits on that occasion, he's okay. He will be the last of the cars to go past the safety car, and also Red Bull and Shadow both making pit stops. All Shadow does not have, or Red Bull does not have a front wing. No wonder why he's having to pit. What about Shadow? And Shadow is now out ahead of Red Bull because Shadow did not need to change his front wing. And they come out P9 and P10. So the drivers to make a pit stop: BRL Shadow, Red Bull, Dumbest Basket, and Usain Bolt. That's Kelvin King needs to take his drive-through penalty, but of course cannot do that under the safety car. Two McLarens have started the race with plenty of promise. Bucky P2, Betman in P6, solid stuff so far. And Hazer has driven himself right back into this race as well. P5, having started down in P15. And he is showing his tier 1 pace now, that's for sure. Oh, Usain Bolt has DNF'd. Wonder if he had some damage then. He's DNF'd in the pits. So I think there must have been damage. Just go through the chat. Yeah, just wanted to be out there. Yeah, yeah, Joe setup didn't help me at all. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not too surprising. I think you've gone through surgery, and you obviously you must be in plenty of pain, mate. Don't worry about it too much. I think, of course, when we all get stuff like that, and then we all want to drive through it, don't we? Like, you just want to keep going, drive, and have a good race with other people, and then see what you can do. Sometimes you can't, but then you just want to keep going, right? Yeah, I hope your surgery went okay, and in terms of recovering, I hope the recovery stage isn't going to be too long. But it'd be good to see you back racing at some point, that's for sure. So I do think the safety car should be coming in this lap. From what I'm seeing, all 13 drivers are together. The only driver that I'm seeing with connection difficulties out to 16 would be Kelvin King, unfortunately. And yes, safety car is in this lap. Need to keep trying to practice around with this broadcast view instead of a TV pod. I want to just see if the angles aren't too bad actually, but I'll give it a go for the safety car restart. Hopefully it'll be decent. But we are about to go underway, and through the last couple of corners we go. And there's the Red Bull up against the McLaren. Who gets the better getaway? And Prezi opting to leave it late and is now going. And Bucky perhaps losing a bit of time. In fact, Iron Bro alongside Daimar, not making dive down the inside. Daimar runs wide, runs off track. Potentially gain time, but will now lose some drive, and it will enable the AlphaTauri into the top 3. And Daimar may lose a place to Hazer down on the inside, and Hazer makes the move ahead of the Ferrari into P4. Betman battling ahead with the Ferrari. Gotta say, Betman still doing a sturdy job, as Sergeant Coffee potentially having some struggles at the back in the Red Bull, but Betman not quite able yet to make the pass on Daimar. Hazer closing in on Iron Bro. Can he get himself into the top 3? And still the Alpine continuing to impress in its charge towards the lead of the race. Oh, and a bit of a struggle through the chicane for Iron Bro, and it will give another opportunity to Hazer. Where would he go? Surely round the inside. Is he going to make a dive down? No, he doesn't. Holds firm. We've got the main straight coming up in just a few corners' time. Hazer still not able to make the move. Going to take a presumption. Oh, another struggle for Iron Bro, and it will enable Hazer the pass down the inside now, as Iron Bro runs off track, and it will possibly allow for the Ferrari of Domar to also close in. Don't think he is yet, so Domar staying behind. These 4 running very closely, and it's the gap to the leader now, so Bucky still a second behind, but a gap back to Hazer. But Hazer can now attempt to charge back through and close in on the top 2. Bucky now within a second off the lead. McLaren still closing in. It's about 8 tenths behind now. Betman continuing to impress. Meanwhile, he is behind Domar and is keeping pace with some very quick drivers around him, including Hazer, not too far ahead. And Betman has Davy Boy behind by over a second at this moment in time. A wider line through the chicane, losing time however, and Davy Boy now is starting to catch the McLaren. Yellow flags at the back, and it will be UFRL Red Bull. 2 stops made this race, and unfortunately for him, continuing his woes. Sadly, Red Bull now dropping down at P13, having qualified so nicely. Bucky with the fast lap, 1:34.2, but Hazer goes quicker, a 34.1. But he will probably need to step on the gas a little bit more than that, but it's certainly closing the gap to the top 2 within 4 seconds now. Go back to the interval. VRL Shadow all over the back of Pro Beast, and there is a full course safety car. I do wonder, because I swear I saw Pro Beast just run a little bit wide. How is this? Has he still got his front wing intact? Yes. Someone has got some form of damage, however. Just trying to see who it could be. Oh, is it Red Bull? Yes, it is Red Bull. Okay, that would be the reason why we have the safety car then. It's always weird when you get full course safety cars or virtual safety cars or just yellow flags. You never really know what the game's going to do. Early doors we were just having the virtual safety cars, and now we seem to be getting plenty of full course safety cars. Red Bull should be okay, as in he will not be lapped by Prezi in the lead. But it is Prezi from Bucky, and now the gap will close, which will be brilliant news for Hazer in the Alpine. He will now be right behind the top two. As I continue to mention, he did start down in P15. And the Alpine is making a pit stop. So the only one not is Prezi. So Bucky making a pit. Hazer, Ironbro. Domar is also in. Betman stays out. As does Davy Boy. Plenty of pit stops being made, however. And Prezi probably does want a few cars in between himself and the likes of Bucky and Hazer. And there are exactly that. It seems 3 drivers, Betman, Davy Boy and Pro Beast, who has a penalty, but then you've got Bucky and then Hazer. So is it the right strategy call for Prezi to stay out on track, keep track position, but effectively lose a pit stop to Bucky and Hazer? He probably is hoping for another safety car to come out. Could be good to have some fresh full wet, to battle with Bucky and in particular with Hazer. No doubt Hazer will feel he can win this race. Certainly knowing Prezi has not pitted. So we're just going to confirm everybody. Oh, not everyone is on the full wet. We have got an intermediate runner of Sergeant Coffee. So the Red Bull, this will be a bit of data for the 13 or 12 other cars on track at the moment. How will Sergeant Coffee's intermediates fare against the full wet? Well, let's be honest, the track conditions still don't look a lot better. Plenty of puddles still. Are the conditions good enough for the intermediates? Not so sure myself. And I think Sergeant's just confirmed that it's not quite intermediate conditions because he's just had a spin through the chicane, but does keep it on track. I say keep it on track, he did run on the grass a little bit, but holds P12, but I'm sure if I'm Sergeant, I'd definitely be getting rid of those intermediates right now. It's got to be full wet conditions. Again, another struggle. So, certainly not intermediates yet. Although Sergeant is opting to stay out. I do wonder if he's been told that the rain is set to let off, or what's going to happen exactly. If he hasn't been told that the rain is just going to be light rain, then I'm surprised he's on these inters. Again, struggling through turns 1 and 2. And the fact is, this is set under the safety car. So the fact that he's struggling under the safety car on those intermediates, surely he's going to continue to struggle once we actually go racing. You see how much he's fallen adrift. Under the safety car, he has fallen about 7 or 8 seconds behind the cars ahead. And then you see Red Bull has already closed up within 6 seconds. He was, what, 20 seconds behind? So, yeah, Sergeant Coffee. The intermediate is not ready yet for all the other 12 drivers. That's for certain. Definitely struggling. I mean, I know it's not a straight, but there's a slight bend, but that's about it. And he struggles through it now. Back into the chicane. Hopefully he takes it a bit neater. He does, to be fair to him. And now he is starting to claim some time back on those under the safety car. Although he still has Red Bull right behind him, who will be aware that Sergeant is on the intermediates. And I will admit, it might be ideal for Red Bull just to leave a bit of a gap to Sargent ahead, unless Sargent pits. He is pitting, so Sargent is getting rid of his intermediate tyres, which will be great news for Red Bull, so he doesn't have to worry about what Sargent could do. I don't mean that in a bad way, I just mean, let's say Sargent has a spin on the safety car restart and could affect Red Bull, but now, then again, Red Bull's just affected himself. He spun through turns 1 and 2, and I'm pretty sure must have some damage of that. Will that be another front wing change for UFRL Red Bull? It may just be, and what's happened ahead? Doesn't look like there's been any positional changes. Bucky's still ahead of Hazer. Maybe just momentarily Hazer had overtaken under the safety car. So this may be the worst news possible though for Red Bull, because I do believe he has some form of damage. Or surely he must have some damage from that. And if he does have damage, he'll want to repair his car. However, the safety car is in this lap. Sergeant Coffee still needs to catch up, but isn't far away. I do wonder if the... I'm going to give it a go without the map on at all. See how we fare. Again, just trialing out a few things, see what can work potentially. And again, going to go with the broadcast view. As it looks like Kelvin King and Dumbest Basket trading positions, but Kelvin King is ahead in the Mercedes. So, we're about to go underway then. It will be Prezi and Betman. Betman P2. Certainly wouldn't have betted on that, would you? What a drive from the McLaren, but of course still needs to pit. Only the top 4 need to pit again. So here we go, and it is a nice lead for Prezi, and there is something. Pro Beast is out of the race. Bucky right behind Davy Boy. Is he about to make a dart down the inside? Not quite so. Holds position down in P4, but has a much stronger competitive line as opposed to Davy Boy. Surely the McLaren can fly past, but he will be wary of Hazer behind him. And let's see, can he make the move here? As we'll go on board with Hazer to see if he can make a move. Oh, he may make a move round the outside. And they are side by side, Bucky and Hazer. This is to be effectively in the lead, having both pitted already. And who has got the quicker straight line speed? It looks like Bucky. Greater drive for the McLaren. And going to the chicane now. Let's see, he's right behind Davy Boy. Hazer follows him in, but is behind the McLaren still. Davy Boy runs off track, and it will allow for Bucky to make a move down the inside. And Hazer as well has lost out. He will lose out because Bucky completed a move on Davy Boy. Davy Boy running wide and therefore running the curb, and it will enable Hazer a move down the inside, heading into the final 2 corners off the track. And now Bucky and Hazer up 1 place apiece. Davy Boy down in P5 as there is contact made between Hazer and Davy Boy. The Hazer stays ahead, and Davy Boy is retiring from the race. Davy Boy is out, and it looks like it's a safety car of some sort. Let's see. It's a full course safety car. So unfortunately for Davy Boy, he is out. And we are back then with Prezi in the lead. However, there is now only the 1 car between Prezi and Bucky, and unfortunately for Prezi, that 1 car is Bucky's teammate, Betman. Surely Betman will not hold his teammate up, because Bucky has pitted, whereas Betman and Prezi have not. So, clear advantage now for Bucky and Hazer. And you've got to say Bucky showed impressive pace to stay ahead of Hazer. We're down to 10 of the 16 runners then. So both Aston Martins, both Alfa Romeos out. 1 Mercedes and 1 Davy Boy was in the Williams, I think. So there you go. One Williams, one Mercedes, and then a two of both Alfa Romeo and Aston Martins out of the race. So the running order then, Prezi leading in the Red Bull. Then the two McLarens of Bettman and Bucky. Bucky should be able to take the lead once Prezi and Bettman head into the pits. But then you've got Hazer flying through from P15 in the Alpine. Ironbow, solid drive for the AlphaTauri in the top 5. As there is a pit stop made and it is Bettman, which means Bucky will be right behind Prezi. But, and also BRL Shadow now heading into the pits. He was level with Daimar. The two Ferraris were together. Daimar P5 now. Dumbest Basket is 6th from Sergeant Coffee, and there is another tyre change. It is BRL Shadow on the intermediates. How will those tyres fare? I'm imagining similar to what happened with Sergeant Coffee. So BRL Shadow on the inters, just trying them out, and I'm fairly confident he will figure out it's not quite intermediate conditions. And I'll be real, I don't think it's going to be intermediate conditions in this race. It certainly looks the way of the full wets. Being over halfway through the race as well, the conditions won't be able to change that much more. So I do just think BRL Shadow is on the wrong tyres now. And I think he'll figure that out for himself. But the worst thing would be to spin and crash out. So I say that, he's like in the grass at the moment, he's really struggling. And again, I would personally, if I was Red Bull, I would just drop off from the Ferrari. Be aware that he's probably going to pit for full wets, but don't go too close to him because you just don't know when those intermediates will spin that Ferrari around. So just be careful. Oh, the safety car's in this lap. That is horrific news for BRL Shadow. Oh, and he's on the intermediates, and also probably going to be bad news for Red Bull, although Shadow seemingly letting Red Bull through, I believe. But we will go back underway then. And it is Prezi who still needs to pit from Bucky. Everybody has pitted except for Prezi in the lead. And if anybody could make a move, maybe Ironbro closing in on Hazer ahead. Hazer approaching turn 1 nicely. And it looks like the top 6 have run away nicely. And Red Bull now is into the top 7. And Bettman, the McLaren down the back now in P10 behind the intermediate runner of BRL Shadow. And it's devastating news at the back then for Bettman. What a race he was having. And it's battling now with Shadow. How are the intermediates faring? Not very well, as you can tell with the onboard. And it will enable Bettman to make the pass. The McLaren moving in on the Ferrari and into the top 9. When will BRL Shadow get rid of those intermediates? Surely he's got to. Again, struggling through the twist of the right-hander, followed by the left-hander heading into the chicane. He can't wait to get rid of those. What about the battle here? Domar trying to push close towards Dumbest Basket, but Hazer is closing in on Bucky ahead. And Bucky, with wheel spin, losing out, and Hazer is now into second place, effectively P1. Having pitted already, the Alpine continues to fly. And here we do have fireworks. On fireworks night, bonfire night, and it is advantage to Hazer. Bucky losing pace, and now Hazer 1.3 seconds behind Prezi. Can he close the gap to the Red Bull? He doesn't necessarily have to, because Prezi still needs to pit. And there you go, there are pit stops at the back with both Red Bull and Shadow. A front wing change for Red Bull. Shadow is now back onto the full wets, fortunately for him, but the intermediate certainly did not work. So 6/10 still between Prezi and Hazer now. I say still, Hazer is certainly closed in. But the longer Prezi can keep Hazer behind, I'm not so sure what the advantage for Prezi is here at this point. He's sort of in no man's land because if he pits, he's going to be out in, what, 8th place? Should be out ahead of Shadow and Red Bull, but if he stays out, he's just going to have to hope for a late safety car. And again, what's the best place he's going to be at that point? It's not going to be up very high, so he's sort of nowhere at the moment, really. The only positive could be if himself, Hazer and Bucky could open up a good, solid gap to Ironbro, but it's not quite happening at this moment in time. And I don't imagine he would open a gap to Hazer right now. Unless there's some form of struggle for Hazer as he does set a 33.7 to go fastest. So it is a three-way battle right now. Effectively a two-way battle between Hazer and Bucky once Prezi pits. Ironbro, however, is now dropped off to 2 seconds back to Bucky. And Dumbest Basket in the Haas, right behind the AlphaTauri. So, are these two going to be having any form of battle? What about ahead? You've got the battle for the lead. Hazer behind Prezi. Prezi on the 17 lap hold. Full wets may just be struggling at this moment in time to keep the Alpine at bay. Either of them any quicker here. Looks like potentially a little bit more pace for the Red Bull. And also Dumbest Basket not quite catching Ironbro ahead. As I look into the chat then, hello to Louis and Nick fell asleep. That's unfortunate, man. Where are you based anyway? Are you based in the UK or? As we still see, can Hazer make a move here? Yellow flags in sector 3. Not sure who it was for. Potentially at the back. Shadow, Red Bull, maybe, although Sergeant Coffee has dropped off considerably. Better man over 7 seconds behind now as well. Still not quite able to make the pass, Hazer, on Prezi ahead. And it is enabling for the McLaren of Bucky to close in a little bit more every lap. So still the fight is not on yet, but do not cancel Bucky out right now. Well, I say that, he is starting to lose a bit of time now. So Bucky just needs to go back to what he was doing before. Keep slowly putting in the top two, which is what he's starting to do now, as he is within 1 second of Hazer. Through the chicane, 9/10 separating Hazer from Bucky ahead. And the battle continues between these two, but Dumbest Basket and Ironbro are right at it now, but not quite making the pass. Ironbro takes a wider line, Dumbest Basket on the inside. But the Haas not making the move just yet. So no move for the Haas. What about a further ahead? Hazer, is he catching Prezi? I think he's slowly catching him on a straight with a slipstream, but not enough. And Bucky is still getting closer as well. You just imagine though, once Hazer pulls away from Prezi, as he looks down the inside, doesn't quite make the move, but once he does make the move, he will feel he has enough speed to move away from Bucky. As Sergeant Coffee opts for another pit stop from the full wets. But Dumbest Basket as he continues to close in on Ironbro. A battle for P4. Doesn't look like he's quite making the move at stick right now, as Ironbro seems to be struggling on his 10-lap old full wets. Dumbest Basket's full wets are the second oldest, only Prezi with longer tyres. Let's see. And Hayes, in fact, has started to drop slightly off from Prezi ahead. Bucky still within 8/10. So it's leads 3 as Red Bull has binned it. And now, is there going to be another safety car? 20 laps into the race. And it doesn't look like there will be another safety car. Sergeant Coffee on fresh full wet tyres. Still yellow flags in Sector 2, but no safety car or virtual safety car. And the battle is still on for the top 3. And now, the track map on is a full course safety car. Prezi can make a pit stop from the full wets, surely onto another set of full wets. I'm pretty certain in 50% races you do have to pit, I believe, right? No matter what, because in 25% I think you can get away with it on inters or full wets. But in 50% I do think you do have to pit. So Thursday we'll need to get rid of those in our full wets right now and go back onto another set of full wets. But those new fresh full wets, which meanwhile should only get him out into P7. However, he will lose out because Hazer and Bucky will have a chance to put away now. And those two have looked like they've had strong pace throughout. So we'll just see then who does indeed pit this race then. Prezi in the Red Bull is surely going to pit now. Let's find out, right? Be pretty crazy if the Red Bull opts to stay out. Lap 21 of 29. He's got no real choice but to pit, surely. And he does indeed head into the pits. 2 behind, stay out. Hazer and Bucky then will be in the top 2. Iron Bro. Oh, he's going into the pit, as is Dumbest Basket and Domar. What's Betterman doing? Betterman is staying out in the McLaren, and it is not game over for FTR Prezi on the fresh full wets. He will be only down in what looks like either P3 or P4. It will be P4 for Prezi behind Betman. So it's game on for Prezi. And it is a battle, surely. Hazer versus Bucky versus Prezi for the race win. Betman would love to have a say in that. And he still continues to impress, I've got to say. Very impressive from the Tier 4 driver. He will be right up there in my driver of the day votes, or picks at least, from what I've seen. I mean, at this moment in time, if I'm thinking of 3 drivers, 2 of them I'm pretty certain of will be Hazer and Betman. But it's all to play for at this moment in time for the other driver. But that's providing it still goes swimmingly for the likes of Hazer and Betman until the end of the race. And if there's no like on-track collisions for either of them, it should be all okay. So it's just a few different things that I do look out for. I do try to think who's made some great overtakes or who's made up places, who's avoiding collisions. It looks like some debris on the track meanwhile. Not sure whose car that would be from. But like, let's say you're involved in 1 or 2 potential incidents. Obviously I can't say, oh, it's definitely that driver's fault or not. I don't go into that personally, but I'll just go based on what I'm seeing on the stream. That may be reasons to not quite include you in the voting, or you know, if you've lost places in the race. But let's say you have a strong race, but then maybe at the end there's just a little some form of slip up or something happens. I may still include you. It just depends how the race goes, how the stream goes as well. Who provides plenty of action, they may be included based on that as well. So yeah, just a few different things for me personally to keep watch of. And also, especially in the sprint and international tiers, personally, I like to think if you're like tier 3 or tier 4 and you're able to proper battle with drivers in tiers 1 or 2, I think fair play. And that's why Betman would be up there for me. The fact that he's in tier 4 and is, you know, keeping up with the likes of Hazer and Bucky and Prezi. He's doing very well indeed. So at the moment, solid points on offer for McLaren. P2 and P3. So I'm just going to imagine the safety car will surely... Will it be in this lap? Well, Sergeant Coffee is still needing to chase the 8 drivers ahead down. But the last safety car did come in very quickly, so presuming it might do similar here. And yes, safety car is in this lap then, so the running order: Hazer from Bucky and Betman, Alpine, McLaren, then the Red Bull of FTR Prezi. Will be delighted to only be in P4, having been pitting on the fresh tyres. Ironbro, Domar, Dumbest Basket, BRL Shadow and Sargent catching up now. And we are back underway as Hazer accelerates away from the 2 McLarens. Can Betman hold up Prezi to help his teammate out and help out Hazer in the lead as well? Looks like there's some ground being made and there's a car off the track, and it was Domar who may lose the position now to Dumbest Basket, and indeed he does. So Domar running off track, losing the place to Dumbest Basket. As Prezi closing up to the back of the McLaren of Betman ahead and makes the pass. And Betman may lose the place also to Iron Bro. Side by side, and Iron Bro is ahead of the McLaren. So Betman losing 2 spots then. And it is the top 3 very close together. Hazer from Bucky from Prezi, as we all would have probably wanted late in this race now. Having seen the likes of Usain Bolt and Mr. P, Red Bull as well, all retiring, and Domar letting through his teammate BRL Shadow, not fighting the position, and BRL Shadow though is over the curb. And now, I mean, don't say the Ferraris are going to do the switchback. Surely not, as Betman loses another place to Dumbest Basket. Just as I was saying he's going to be in the driver of the day votes, he is losing 3 spots on the restart. As the battle continues, and at the front, it's the McLaren v the Red Bull, and avoiding contact, and Prezi round the outside of Bucky, and is into the top 2, or is he? It's a battle to commence then. Down the main straight, can Prezi, he stays in the slipstream, but Bucky seems to have greater straight line speed as opposed to the Alpine and Red Bull around him. Ironbro is half a second ahead of Dumbest Basket. Those two have been battling for plenty of this race. As BRL Shadow now does make the pass on Betman, and Domar will hope to follow suit. The 2 Ferraris also in good positions. P6 and P8 will be earning good points for their team. Oh, and BRL Shadow does pick up a 3-second penalty, so he will need to gain that advantage over the McLaren behind. But these 3 continuing to strive towards victory. Hazer, Bucky and Prezi. Mentioned them many times in this race. They have been the 3 to push for the victory, as Ironbro continues to drop off a little bit. And the battle continues down the inside as Prezi. Space being afforded by the McLaren on the outside. And who will go into the corner nicely? Both of them hopefully. And Bucky is on the curb and loses the position. Prezi is into the top 2. And the Red Bull can now chase down Hazer ahead on 12 lap pressure, full wet tyres. We're coming on to lap 26 off 29. Hazer still leading from Prezi then, and now it's surely going to be a race to the end for Hazer and Prezi. Hazer has not managed to accelerate away from the two behind as BRL Shadow sets a 1:33.591, the Ferrari with the fastest lap of the race. Iron Bro now with a 3-second penalty. We'll just go now with Dumbest Basket continuing his battle with Iron Bro, as the Haas must be very frustrated behind the AlphaTauri, not able to make the pass. And that Iron Bro, I've got to say, has closed in a bit more on the 3 ahead. So saying that, Prezi is now only a few tenths behind Hazer, all over the back of the Alpine. And is there a potential opportunity for Prezi heading into the chicane? There might be, because, oh, contact made! Hazer has just lost his car a bit there. Is there any major damage? Maybe not. At least not visually. And you feel Hazer should really allow for Prezi to be ahead now at this stage. Surely he's going to allow for Prezi to be in front of him. Having made that contact, there surely must be some damage, certainly to the front wing or side pods of Prezi. He'll be very fortunate if he avoided any damage there, as it has enabled these drivers, Iron Bro and Dumbest Basket, to close in. Dumbest Basket once more not making the move, however. They do have penalties, so it won't be too significant, as we're on lap 27 now. And the gap still continues. Hazer and Prezi at the front. Domar now with a 3-second penalty. He is chasing down Betman, but will now need to take 3 seconds on the McLaren if he can make the move stick. At this moment in time, it'll be interesting post-race what happens, if anything happens. It may just be that, I mean, on the stream, I normally don't really mention too much. It just looks like Hazer just lost his car a little bit, so it's a bit harsh to do too much to Hazer, but we'll see anyways. Bucky is chasing down Prezi, looks closer to the Red Bull. Still wonder if Prezi got damage from that. No clear signs according to how the car looks visually, but I don't know, sometimes just looking how he's going through the corners doesn't look as neat as what he was before. But at the same time, maybe Hazer might have a little bit of damage, I don't know. Oh, and Prezi has certainly got damage, and Bucky will lose the place to Iron Bro. It looked like he was just trying to avoid any form of debris from Prezi. Oh! As Prezi runs off. He certainly ran off there. And the Red Bull now dropping down places. Do wonder if there was some form of controller disconnection or something. Oh, and he's left the session. So Hazer should now wrap up the victory in this race. And I've got to say, I'm quite gutted actually for Bucky, because he really right now should be running in the top 2. But he has BRL Shadow behind him, and actually with the penalties on offer he will still get second place. So I think now Bucky has to be in my driver of the day category. And the two ahead have been battling for so long, Dumbest Basket and Iron Bro. I know I was thinking Betman earlier, or the Bucky now makes the move on Dumbest Basket. So we are on the penultimate lap as Bucky continues with a little bit of a struggle, but okay, so now I'm thinking for driver of the day, I'm thinking Hazer and Bucky. But you know what? I feel like Iron Bro with his defence on Dumbest Basket in particular. I'm thinking that the AlphaTauri, providing he does keep his car ahead of Betman, with the penalties included, I think the top 3 should be the 3 for the driver of the day. Personally, my 4th pick would have been Betman. Would have been a certainty about 7 laps ago, I believe it was. But I just think Hazer winning the race has to be in there. Bucky has impressed me, to be honest, in the McLaren. He's been fighting all night long. And actually, Ironbro is all over the back of Hazer ahead. Oh, and really struggling low. And it should allow for Bucky, who has to lift off, but will now not quite make the pass on the outside of Ironbro. But Bucky does not need to take the place because he will still come home. Oh, and it's been passed now by Dumbest Basket, but as I was saying, will make a move not quite down the inside. I think he's just saying, you know what, I'm going to come home in P2 anyways, so he doesn't need to push too much. But tonight's race will be won by the Alpine, and it will be Hazer winning the international tier race here at Australia as Hazer comes through with a victory. A great drive for the Alpine, and it will be followed by Bucky in P2, Ironbro, Betman in the top 4, BRL Shadow from Dumbest Basket, Domar, Sergeant Coffee does come home in 8th, the 2 Red Bulls both taking points. But there you go, the victory has been secured. Really nice job by Hazer, and Bucky in 2nd place as well. So that has been the race completed for the international tier. And we will watch the podium celebrations then. And here you go then, here are the results, and Hazer 2.2 seconds ahead of the McLaren of Bucky, both making up plenty of positions in the race. Ironbro 3rd place for the AlphaTauri. Betman, I'll say he did very well. I mean, I'm in 2 minds right now between who the other driver should be for driver of the day. Ironbro or Betman, they're my 2 contenders. I haven't personally seen Ironbro race before, but he had an epic battle with Dumbest Basket. Whereas Betman, coming from tier 4, had a really, really strong race. I'm very impressed with him. So, unless if I'm allowed 4 drivers, I would love to pick those 4. But there you go. So I'm now going to have to decide on that. But that is your international tier race completed for Australia. And we'll be back then on Monday night, 8 o'clock, for the tier 1 race round the circuit of the Americas. Thank you for watching. I've been Viva F1 Comms. This has been UFRL, and we'll see you on Monday night.